Hey guys, and welcome back to the Nikki Mungues Show, where I empower you guys in all walks of life. And today I have a very special guest. He is one of my good friends now, and he had spoken at a convention at a leader summit last week in Canada, and I was just so amazed by the way he spoke. I was actually really inspired, and I had to have him on my show. He is a satellite distributor in Canada in the rainbow business. He is a proud husband and father of two cute babies. Let's bring on Mr. Mark Rhyason.
Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Thank you for being my special guest on my show.
Anytime, every day, 7 days a week.
My goodness. I just, for those of you tuning in, Mark is so amazing. We actually just met, what was it, last week? Oh, a week and a half ago. And you spoke on the topic of wealth and wealth building. And I was just, like I said, so inspired. And it's a topic where a lot of people, are sometimes ashamed of talking about to their friends, their family, and it was perfect timing. So quick question for you, just to start off the podcast. How would you define wealth, and what does wealth mean to you?
Man, short answer, not having to look at your bank account to make like your normal decisions, like your daily decisions that you have to make every day, like eating,
Right.
or even your weekly or your monthly, like the bills, just not having to check the bank account to make normal decisions.
Right. And that's something that, people in society, and I'm going to be honest, struggle with. Now, let's talk about your journey though. Was there a part in your life where you struggled to build that type of wealth, where it was like a realization? Talk about like your background growing up. What was that like?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I always joke. I say I come from the same place as everybody, broke. Like we like pretty much everybody started there, and I thought that I had figured out the game because you do what's right, you do what you're told to do. When you want to break out, you go try to get good grades, you try to get a good job, you try to have good work ethic. Went to university, and after 4 years of university, or even five, I think, and working at an accounting firm for 3 years, was still broke. And
Dang.
and I was just like, man, like the game's broken. So we can either cry about it or we can figure it out. And so that's kind of when Rainbow found me, was kind of right at the right time when I was realizing there's got to be something else out there.
Mm. So, talking about your background, like you said accountant, correct? You're an
Yeah.
accountant, and what really stuck out was that you said you were still broke. So what made you still, was it your decision making? Was it the way you handled your money? Was it like your actual career? What kept you in that position?
Well, it's kind of twofold. Like money, it's honestly simple. Like it's the simplest game ever. It's just we all decide to ignore it. And I always compare it to getting fit. We all know how to be healthier. Either we just choose to or not. And I
Mm,
really feel like that's the same with your financial situation. We all know the answers. So it was a bit of both. The two things you have to do is you have to know how to save money, but you also have to know how to make money. Like not buying that coffee every day doesn't do anything for you if you're making $20,000 a year. Like
right.
you're still not going to get a down payment for a house.
Yeah.
So you have to have both habits. But I believe that the financial responsibility habit is the more important one to get, so that once you learn how to make the money, you're not blowing it either. It sucks to go make the money and you don't have the habits down, so it did nothing for you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's a really big about, discipline. You have to be disciplined.
Oh yeah.
And that's like the biggest and hardest part. So when people talk about wealth, I think that, society, and, I study it sometimes. I look at certain people, and, being in our business, you encounter certain people too. And they think in their head, and I'm sure you witnessed this when you try to get them in the business, they say, oh no, like you have to be really good to do that. You have to be really good to make a lot of money. Like I can never do that. And so that goes with believing in yourself, right? You have to actually believe, and you want to actually want to become wealthy. Now, with the rainbow business, right, versus any type of regular job, that's the reason why I got into it. Obviously, my parents, but for you, what really got you into the business? Obviously, the money, but opportunity. Talk about that.
Yeah. So the rainbow business, like I mean, I grew up playing on teams my whole life. Like that was my whole childhood, right? I wanted to be liked on the team. I wanted to do good for the team. When the team lost, I lost. Like it didn't matter how I played that game. Like I felt how the team felt. And getting, as you grow up, I think adults don't have very many of those situations anymore. And all of a sudden, Rainbow kind of got those competitive juices going again. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like we have a bigger picture. Like we're actually trying to achieve something and build something, not just clock in, clock out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was big for me. And then the other one is, uh, honestly, I didn't like that every career I've really found, um, it's not up to you how you do. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
already set. It's like, hey, here's your hourly. Have fun. And it's like, oh, you've been here 2 years. Okay, here's your raise. Oh, you've been here 3 years. Here's your raise. Oh, you're doing the same as the guy beside you, but he's been here a year longer than you, so he's making $1.50 more. And
Yeah.
I didn't thrive in that environment. And then all of a sudden, there was an environment where it's like, no, it's up to you. Like if you do bad, you have to own it. But if you do good, you get to celebrate it. And I think a lot of people miss that dynamic. They want to blame people when they're not doing well, but they don't realize that means if they do well, they have to give the credit away too. Like
Right.
it can't be on you when you do good, but on someone else when you do bad.
Yeah.
So I really liked that environment. I wanted to give it a shot, and I wanted to put it on me how I did.
And I think that's how you and I like connected too, because athletes, right? We have that athlete background, and the way we applied that to the business, it's literally the same thing but different fields. But now that you've worked your way all the way up to becoming a satellite distributor, right? As a dealer, you're making good money. Distributor, cool, way more money. But as a satellite distributor, right? Obviously, you are a business owner. How do you manage that now, like how, like, money wise? And because there's a lot of people that do want to get to that position, but I feel like the number one thing is being able to manage all that, manage the money, manage the inventory. I think I'm going to be honest, I was like stalking your Facebook and you were on a live one day and you said, this is inventory day, and I was like, wow, like, so I see that type of structure. So how are you able to manage, just in general, being a business owner?
It, at the beginning, it wasn't easy, to be honest. Like one thing I had to learn was setting new zeros for myself, and I mean dollar wise. So like because when you have money that you're not used to having, and I mean at any level, like when I had 5 grand for the first time, like I promise you, it was gone. Like because you've been comfortable with $500 in your bank account,
Correct.
and you really are. You're like, oh, that's my comfort level. I know I can get food. I know I can stop and fill up the gas tank. And then you have 5,000, so you're like, oh, I got a lot of room. Like I can go do some stuff,
Hmm.
and it doesn't change. Like the dollar value just gets bigger. So all of a sudden, when you have 10,000, you do the same thing, and then all of a sudden, when you have 20,000, you go spend a bunch. So once the business started making pretty good money, I really, really had to set new zeros. I couldn't live like I had that money, or I would still be at 5,000. And then what's the point? If you're going to have the same amount of money no matter what, why not just be on a beach in Mexico? Like,
Right.
if you're not going to do something with it, then what's the point? So to me, I had to really set up some rules for myself until those habits were built. And then once they're built, they're done. It's over. It's like eating good. If you can
Right.
do it for 6 months, you'll probably do it for your whole life.
What do you mean by what were your habits for those 6 months?
So I realized that we're pretty frugal, but we were eating supper out a lot, and it was just I don't cook and neither does my wife. So it was one of our like really big hardships was we were spending a lot of money just going out to eat. And so what we actually did once we realized that is we just made a rule. Okay, only waters when we go out for supper. And all of a sudden our food bill got cut in half. Like, it's insane. But if you each have, you know, a drink while you're waiting for your food and then a drink with supper, I mean, drinks are expensive. That's 4 drinks minimum. Yeah, you're like, holy crap, like that added $50 to the bill with plus tip. And you're like, holy crap. So we were like, okay, let's start small. Let's just pay attention to the stuff we can eliminate on the bill. And then obviously we started going at, you know, happy hours or things like that. But yeah, that was one of the biggest ones for us that I had to get over. And then of course, it just felt like we did all of our maintenance all at once, which for me is it's like once you start spending, it's hard to stop. So it was like, oh, let's get a new washer and dryer. Oh, and a new car at the same time. Oh, and we're gonna get the painter and the floors changed. And it's like, well, hold the phone. Like, where are we gonna stop and get back to our comfort zone?
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of those things. Learning not to go down that shopping high.
Yeah. And it's funny because I think you were the one that said it. A lot of people buy a lot of stuff to impress people that they don't. Was that you that said
it? I stole it from probably 100,000 other people.
Oh,
I read it in 50 books. But yeah, we spend money we don't have to buy things we don't even like to impress people that don't care.
Yeah. And it's
like
insane.
Yeah.
And something that that I got was, delayed gratification that's huge. Because in Rainbow, and I can admit this too, I treated myself out to like a Louis Vuitton, my first year. I was making tons, and that was like during COVID too, so I had like lots of money, and I was like, hey, you know what, let me go treat myself. So Mark, that was like the first and last like luxury bag that I ever bought for myself. The rest were like either hand-me-downs, because I immersed myself in conversations with people like you guys. And the real reason why like I do have this podcast is because, like, as much as I want to help the people, like I definitely want to learn what you did to get to where you're at. And you talked about, you were just preaching to the choir like a week and a half ago. You were just saying things that people needed to hear, and society wants us to be normal, right? Talk about that.
Oh man, like that. My wife sometimes is like, don't ask him to talk about certain things because it can go like, it can be a 5-hour talk by accident, like it's like, oh crap, what time is it? Honestly, I think that the world, one of the biggest like scams going on right now is that, and it's been for years, we were all taught one of the things you don't talk about is money.
Right.
You don't talk about it. And
why is that?
I don't know. It's like, it's because either you're on the good side of it, so you're bragging, or you're on the bad side of it. So why would you talk about it?
Right.
And so it's like nobody talks about money, but all that ends up happening is that the only noise any of us hear are the complainers then. So all we hear is how bad it is. It's like turning on the news. So if all you hear all day long is like, oh man, I can't afford a gas tank, I can't afford food, oh my God, I can't believe that they just jacked my property taxes $5. Like, what we all come to think is that everyone's broke. So what ends up happening is humans we make sure that we fit in. So whatever we vision everybody as ends up being what we do. And so we've kind of created like a self manifestation of everybody just staying broke, because everybody that has money doesn't talk about it, because you're so worried that I'm not bragging. I'm happy. I'm proud. I want you to know. It's like you can go on Facebook and say you lost 5 pounds and 10,000 people will go, yeah. You go on and say, hey, I made an extra 10 grand this year, and you get 2 likes.
Wow.
Like, like nobody really, it's just like we don't support each other for financial good things that happen. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really wish that people would, because I want my kids to hear it, right? I want them to like think it's normal to get to go on vacation when and where you want. It's normal to get to be in hockey. It's normal, I want them to think that that's normal life. not that everything is like a no because we're broke.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's kind of a, you're brainwashing them.
Exactly. Have you always been like this? Like, has your mindset always been like this, or was there like a moment in your life and you were just like, man, like I gotta, make a change?
I'm kind of I don't know. I was that kid that whatever the norm was, I hated it. And
Okay.
I wanted to go against it. Like if you told me, "Hey, that's really cool," I wasn't doing it.
Okay.
And so I think seeing how my family grew up and where we were, like I just it like made you have two choices, right? It's like the old saying, you can either say, "Well, that's what my dad did, so that's what I
Mhm.
do," or you can be like, "Well, that's what my dad did, so I'm never doing that."
Right.
And you just got to decide on, is it going to be your excuse or is it going to be your reason why you do the opposite?
Yeah.
So I just always did the opposite. I don't know why that's in me. My mom, that was the most stubborn kid my whole life. And that's what it was. So
Yeah.
I think I was just destined to, good or bad, do whatever nobody else was doing. And it could have went really bad too, but
But, that's what makes you great though. Like, and just being different. Now, if somebody's watching this podcast and let's say, Mark, they are in a situation in their life right now where they want to be wealthy, but they're surrounding themselves with the wrong people, like, and it's a struggle for them. And that's really huge too. I mean, you have an amazing supportive wife. You have a great, I'm sure you have a great circle of friends. Tell us how important it is to have the right people in your life along this journey.
it's everything. I mean, pick up a book, like any book. I think the first chapter of every book pretty much says you're the average of the five closest people you hang around.
Yeah.
And that's financially, that's activity wise, that's like fitness level. Pick a category. You're going to be in the mix of your friends. So your support system's like super important, but you can also be the change, right? Like you can be the catalyst to your support system, and they can choose to either come for the ride, or I guess they'll funnel themselves out because they won't like being around it either. Like, they'll just end up, oh, we like to party on Fridays and Mark can never party on Fridays. It's like, oh, okay. Like, I guess you stopped calling me. But you don't have to cut people. They'll inevitably either follow you or change their path anyways.
Yeah.
And, if you're trying to figure it out, the biggest tip, and you can watch anybody, but you just got to stop caring what everybody else thinks. Like
That's
if
tough
you're,
though.
yeah,
That's really tough.
it's so hard. But if you were to write it in your journal, put it on your bathroom mirror, don't give up, insert your whatever word you want about what
Right.
anyone else thinks. Because honestly, you're here for you and your family. That's what you're trying to build. It doesn't matter that it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of how you're doing. And going back to what you said about normal, when I looked up that stat and found out that 69% of people have less than $1,000 in their savings account, I don't want to be normal.
Yeah.
So like if there's 70% of a group in one doing one thing, that's considered normal. Normal looked awful. So why would you care what anybody else thinks when you have the proof that nobody's doing anything good?
Right.
So you really, it's almost like you should run the other direction if they do like what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, maybe I should check this out because it's a lot of people seem to actually like what I'm doing. This is weird.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, being normal, obviously, and I mean, sorry, to not be normal is tough because, and to not care about what other people think is tough. But that goes along with confidence. I think that you just have to be confident in who you are and what you do and just be happy because that will bring in, that type of freedom that you were talking about, right? Freedom is, such a loaded word, but when you use it in the term of, talking about wealth, either two things, right? It's either some people you just don't believe in it, or like it's far fetched for them, or it's okay, it's possible,
Yep.
right? But I like to hear certain stories. I'm more so inspired, Mark, by stories and where people had their downfalls in business, have had their downfalls in life, had their downfalls in, their money management. And I want to know how people got back up. And so was there a point in your life where, let's be honest, where you had struggled, where you were just like, man, and then after that certain situation, everything in your life had changed and you just started to realize I can do this. So
Yeah.
talk about, a moment in your life.
There's probably, like, if I could pick, there's three.
Man.
So the first one, cheap learning lesson. But I thought I was gonna, I was young, I was 18, I was trying to, figure out how to outsmart the world, right? Had a big ego. And so I played poker for a living for quite a while. But I remember one night when I was 18, I had a $1,000 credit card, and I played online cards, and I built it up to about $10,000 over like 3, 4, 5 months, something like that. And in one night, I lost all of it.
Oh,
And so, yeah, so I had like been like so disciplined, doing things the right way, managing my bankroll, all these things. And then one night just got away from me. And I remember waking up, like, just going, please pretend that, like, please let that be a dream. And then logging into my account and being like, no, you're an idiot. So that was a big learning lesson for me, to like be more responsible with what you have. That it was nice that it was a cheap lesson at 18. It wasn't like I gambled the house at 50,
mm,
so it was
yep.
like, oh, okay. So that was the first one. The second one was, honestly, once I was an accountant, just looking at how hard things still were,
Mm,
and just realizing, like, this ain't it. They're telling, you're looking at it going, oh, maybe I can, I can be a partner in 15 years. And it's like, well, so I'm going to struggle and be broke for 15 years to maybe be the one that gets it's like,
maybe.
so yeah. And I felt so stuck in that moment. Like, and thank God, like, my wife, and we were just dating at the time, but, so supportive. Like, it was insane. I said, hey, I think I'm quitting. And she's like, what, really? And I was like, yeah. And she's, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know. But this ain't it. And it's not going to work. So that was the second one. And then the last one was probably the hardest one on my ego. It really was. It was during COVID. It was August of 2020 was like a really milestone month for me. So my kid was born in July, right? Or sorry, June. My kid was born in June. And it was COVID. So everybody's giving you the excuse. All your friends and family are, they're not working. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's working. And then in August, we hit $1 million saved in our bank
Wow.
account. Yeah. So we were officially had $1 million, cash,
Gosh.
and had our newborn son, and it was COVID. So all
Wow.
of a sudden I put the brakes on, and I didn't realize I was doing it until it was like pretty far down the road. All of a sudden the business was going backwards. All of a sudden, the money wasn't coming in like what we were used to. And all of a sudden I didn't have the drive anymore. It was really bad. And I was like, what is going on? So that was probably the hardest thing I've had to dig myself out of, because it's, once you develop habits, good or bad, it's really, really hard to change.
Yeah.
And now you add in that there's $1 million in the bank and you're a first time dad. Man, it was easy to stay at home. It
Yeah.
was really easy. So that was a really, really tough one for me. But we ended up turning it around, thank goodness, and getting back on track and getting positive again.
I just saw the positive in that one though. Like, was it on the last scenario, having $1 million and um being a first time dad, those are really big accomplishments. Was the downfall, the business, and were you just like in a certain comfort zone at that time?
Yeah, I think I had put so much, not I don't want to say stress, but I had put it on a pedestal to hit $1 million. Like
Oh
it was on
God.
a golden, like that was the mountain. And when I hit it, I hadn't adjusted my goals. I hadn't found a new why. Didn't have a drive. So it was so easy added in with the fact that my kid was right here.
Yeah.
I just didn't I was like, this is great.
You were chilling.
Yeah, I was chilling. So it was, I didn't do a good enough job of like coming up with a bigger dream and a bigger why in time. And then when
Mm,
I hit my current goal, the one I'd been chasing for 5 years, really one that I'd been chasing for probably 32 years, but I'd been in Rainbow 4.5 at that point. And yeah, it was just, I don't know. I hadn't adjusted, and it
mm,
was a scary, it could have went anyway. Like, they say like 80% of people that win the lottery are broke within 5 years.
mm.
So I was just like, okay, you gotta figure this out.
Right. I applaud you, Mark, for being so transparent, and that, like, whoever is watching this, that inspired me, because obviously that's one of my goals and other people's goals as well, to hit that million. You want that liquid cash, like, in your bank account. But what happens after? Right? So you hit that goal, and then what? It's crazy because I hear that in podcasts all the time. People come to a realization, they're like, okay, so what's next? So what was next after you, for you, after you hit that milestone? How did you get up and, you know, keep get your world back moving again?
Well, I had to come up with like a deeper why. Like that was
Mm.
the number one. And it's so funny because Carla, like Dave and Carla Spady, they're like, oh, just get Mark talking about his kids, because then he kind of tears up and it's like Carla's favorite part. And I'm like, don't do
I
it on the podcast. But like it was the truth. Like I had to sit down and realize that, what did I want for Mason? And at
Mm,
that time, we only had one child so far, right? So it was literally like, okay, what do I want him to see every day? What do I want him to think happens, and what a parent does? And what do I want him to think is normal day-to-day habits? And so I had to have a bigger why. It had to like become about like, okay, what do I want this person to see and become? Because I'm chilling. I'm fine. Like I can invest that money. Like we would be fine for a long time.
yeah.
And but it was like, well, what's that going to show him though? That's going to end up really bad for him, and it's not his fault that I'm chilling. So
Yeah.
why do I want to screw him up? So and whether that's real or true or not, I had to make that true to me, that like I need to change so that he sees better habits. And it became a deep why, not like well, I want to be successful. It's like, well, I want to be successful so that my kid learns how to do things.
Yeah.
And so once I had that, that was kind of a big turnaround. And then also, I'm very competitive. And I did not like knowing that I had been here, and people that, and now it was,
Yeah.
I
In the
had,
business, yeah.
yeah, I had to get back into that athlete mode a bit and be like that person doesn't got me. Like
Oh my
there's
god.
no way that person's got me. Like, so it
Oh
had
my
to become
god.
like that. And
Yeah.
it was a mix of the two. But like Mike Rawaldi, I love Mike Rawaldi to death.
Yes.
He is like, if you get to have coffee with Mike Rawaldi, like that's the best thing in the world.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling me that one of the reasons, he goes, whatever your motivation is, it's good motivation. Don't let anyone tell you like, oh, isn't that toxic or whatever? He's like,
Yeah.
no. He said one of the reasons he did so good is that his like distributor or whatever every month would send out the poster of the standings basically just to whoever lost. So and he didn't want to see that other guy's, face in first
Yeah.
place. And so he's just like, yeah, so what did I got my button gear. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, it's good to have driving forces of all kinds. I think, if they're always fluffy, you might be lying to yourself a little bit. I know I need a little bit more than that. And then I honestly, I was started at that moment. I started with something small. I just started going to the gym again and just getting back into like a healthy routine, and it gets you going. It just gets you productive for the day.
No, it does. Man, if we relate so much when it comes to competitiveness, because I think I'm in like such a great position, meaning to say, like, I'm friends with everybody on that top satellite poster.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, every time I go on a trip, I always get teased. They're like, oh, so Nicole, when are you gonna make it a pace setter? When are you gonna go to pace setter? I'm like, hold on, like I'm working on it. Like, and just surrounding yourself with that type of healthy competition. I'm just so blessed that we do have a great group of friends, who are all entrepreneurs, everybody, that you meet who make it up there. They're so awesome. And that's your support system too. Micro Waldy, growing up, obviously my family's been in the business for such a long time. I look up to those like Mike, Dave McCrory. They're just legends, bro.
Yep. I think, knowing that, like, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like this was built for us.
Yeah.
And now we kind of owe it to the next generation to be like, okay, well, let's keep it going. Like it changed my whole family's life. So let's make sure that Rainbow keeps going properly so that, we can kind of pay it forward. And again, it sounds so cheesy, but it's every book. You just gotta have a bigger why. Otherwise there's a stopping point. There's a hard stop.
You do. And it's crazy because I entitled this podcast, let's talk about wealth. Let's, I want to be rich. I want to know that. But just listening to you and like hearing your story, it's more than just money now at this point. It's more than making $1 million at this point, because you hit that. And then what? You became a father. You had a bigger why. But what I, learned from you is that you wanted to continue your legacy to your son. And
100%.
And that's
you hear so many times that it's like, first generation makes it, and then like fourth generation, and you're like, okay, then I got stuff to teach too. It can't be just that I was really good. It's they need to see how it happened, so that hopefully there isn't a fourth generation that's having a hard time because they never learned the habits. So you just gotta, if you develop the why, you end up doing a lot bigger things, I think. And it's every book, like we said. And then, it was kind of cheesy too at that Niagara speech, but I really liked the picture I found of the airplane people putting their mask on first. I just loved it. I was like, man, that's literally the world. Everybody always tells me what they would do if they had Jeff Bezos's money. Everybody always tells me what they would do if they had, Elon Musk's money.
Yeah.
And they're like, he could feed this many people. And I can't. Guys, then go do it. Like, you can't help anybody because you can't even help yourself.
You help yourself.
So, and you're criticizing these guys that put their own mask on first. Like, if you want to do all these great things, and I'm not saying they wouldn't do them, but if you want to do all these great things for people, you got to go out and you got to go and figure it out. Then you can't just say, well, if I was rich, I would.
Right.
It's like, well, how honorable is that dream? Go do it. And,
exactly.
It's really easy to say what you would do, right? It's like there's 8 billion people out there saying what they would do.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay.
And it's crazy because, being in the room with you and, everybody who was in that leadership summit was doing all amazing things. You had people hitting 100 under one roof, over 100, and it's crazy because there is no magic wand out here. There is no abracadabra. I look at you and I'm just like, man, like if you could do that, there's no difference between me and I'm probably a little shorter than you, but like everybody, you just gotta have that drive, right?
I like that mindset that you just said. Is, to me, anybody with that mindset can be whatever they want. The person that can look at another one and go, oh, if they did it, then I know it's possible.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they look at us and go, oh, but I'm not like you. And you're like, no, you were, I promise. You're just seeing me 8 years into this, 9 years into this.
Yeah.
You're not meeting me when the reason I did the ride along program is I didn't have the money to buy the rainbow. Like we're in the same, we are the same. It's just one of us decided to try something and the others are saying why it won't work.
Yeah.
And, even I really do think that the number one recruiting location should be the gyms and the fitness centers.
Oh,
1000%. Because people that can go to the gym every day or 4 days a week or 3 days a week, disciplined routine with delayed gratification, because you don't look better after 10 minutes of working out. You don't look better after 3 days of working out. You can't run further after 1 day on the treadmill. So fitness people really they have bought into the delayed gratification. If they just switched it and put it into business, they could achieve anything. They already have the concept.
Oh, it would be a wrap. Yeah, no, seriously. And that's, my niche too. Like I want to reach out to as many athletes as I can. But one thing about athletes too, though, that's sometimes when they get, to the pro level, that's all they think about. I want to make it to the pros, right? I want to do this. But that's also a disadvantage because they're so closed-minded that they don't know that there's a bigger opportunity in life. And that goes with along with, people's why. I don't know. I'm sure you played hockey, right? All your life.
Yeah. We're in Canada. I think I had to.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, don't judge me. I'm like a Cali girl. I've never gone to a hockey game.
Oh my God.
Like down like 15 minutes from my office.
You gotta go. You gotta go. It's so good.
I really do. I don't know anything. All the basic stuff you kind of have to like just teach me. But I don't know how far you wanted to make it in hockey. Maybe
I was every 5-year-old in Canada. I was like, oh, I'm going to play on TV one day. Oh, I'm going to be the big boys. I'm going to be on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, obviously reality sets in and, I'm not blaming genetics, but all of a sudden you're playing with men that, I was 16 and I remember I stepped on the ice with some 18-year-olds and I was like, we're not the same. Like, there's no way. Like, I know we're both male, but like you're 6'4", you're shaving. I'm, 120 pounds still. So a little bit of reality sets in.
Yeah.
And of course it's a very competitive, like all pro sports are amazingly competitive. So reality sets in and you do change your goals. I was really hoping to maybe go play for like a college or a university. That became the main goal for a while. And then I played for my local town's junior team. And that was pretty much till I was 21. And then now it's beer league. Now it's just hanging out with the guys twice a week.
How fun. So, that's awesome too. Like, talk about freedom. You still have time for that.
Oh yeah. We got what people should be trying to understand. And it's the biggest lesson, I think, when I see people, because they always talk to me and, we're kind of shooting about, well, what's financial freedom? And they're always like, well, I do that and I do that. And I'm like, yeah, I know that's your problem. So, because there's really 3 things in financial freedom. And it's like, number 1, don't be stressed out about money, right? If you're stressed out about money, it means you got to change a couple habits. Like, you shouldn't be stressed because the hot water tank went. And when I say you shouldn't, I'm not attacking if that's the situation you're in. I just mean we can get out of it. That's right. All I mean. So if you're stressed because the price of gas went up or the hot water tank went or Christmas is coming, those kinds of things, you probably have an issue with number 2 and 3. Because when I say when you're financially free, number 2 is you have freedom of choice in your day-to-day activities. So wherever you want to go eat, whatever you want to have for coffee, if you want to go out on a date night, if all of a sudden you want to go to a movie, spare the moment, I'm not checking the bank account. If we want to go for a dance lesson, we're not like, oh, okay, well, what's the bank account and how much is it? Oh, it's $100. Okay, let's see. Or a paint night or just whatever, or our friends invite us to go out for drinks or our friends invite us to go to Mexico, for vacation this year. I don't want to make my decision based on money. Any decision I think that is like a reoccurring, probably yearly even, that decision shouldn't be based on money. You should be able to cover those ones because you know they're coming. You know you're going to need vehicles. You know you're going to go on a vacation. You know you need to eat. So those day-to-day, even year-to-year decisions like vacations and stuff, you need to be financially free and not stressed out about them. And then the last one is the bigger ones, which is like massive memories. Like, hey, are we going to Italy? Like, okay, and for how long? Like, those are really, once you can do that kind of stuff, and oh, hey, can we bring our friends? Can we bring a nanny? Can we bring my mom so she gets to be with the grandkids? Those are like that's the end level. But a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go, oh, I live like that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but you're back at number one where you're stressed about money, which means you shouldn't be living like that. So they try to have the lifestyle of number two and number three, which is the freedom of choice and not caring about money, but then they're stressed about it. So you got to take care of number one first, get yourself into a spot where you can live like two and three without it affecting you. I think too many people try to keep up with the Joneses and skip. They go straight to two and three, living the luxury life. But then they're stressed out and broke.
Yeah.
And it's like, a quick Google search tells you the number one reason for every breakup and divorce ever is finances. And it's like, well, that's crazy. Like,
that's sad.
Yeah, that's real bad. So like, let's just look after our money. And it's kind of nuts to think, but if 69% of people have less than $1,000 in their account, how easy is it to make $1,000 in Rainbow in a month?
Super.
What do you think it is? Like 8 to 10 hours, maybe 12?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, right. And you're like, okay, if you did that per month, you'd have more money than 70% of adults. Like, right. That's yeah. If you made an extra 12 grand in a year, like nobody has 12 grand in their bank account. Like almost nobody. And you could do it so easy with very little effort, but we just haven't built the habits. And it doesn't have to be Rainbow. It could be any extra.
Exactly.
But just not Netflix, not Disney Plus, not, Prime, Amazon, not whatever all these other time sinks are. I laugh, but I know in America, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I know football's big. And, okay, and it's big here too. Like all my buddies, fantasy football is life.
Yeah.
Oh, it is life. I don't know anything about it. And that's not a brag. Like they hate that I don't know anything about it. Like, they're like, Mark, I'm like, I don't know anything about it. But like, if they put in 10% of the time spent managing their fantasy football team into anything, like still play fantasy football, just maybe don't be 100% on fantasy football. Right. Pick up a personal development book and read it. Pick up a financial book and read it. Pick up woodworking. Go garage sale, like just anything. But we all find their time sinks and we don't realize that it's opportunity cost. It's not just that it took our time, it's that it took it away from something that could have been productive.
Right.
And that's and over a year that adds up, just like the person that eats the donut every day for a year versus the one that doesn't. It just adds up. So the small things matter. And I think people don't think that. They think, well, why would I read one book? Like, it's not like I'm going to do much. And you're like, we'll start with one and then maybe one next month. Like, but I'll tell you what, if you read 12 this year, things are different and you won't know. That's the hard part is reading and personal development books. I think you don't know what you changed. I think you just change.
Yeah.
And so it's hard because you don't know, you can't see the results. Like you don't know what, you don't know what happened, but you just do. Maybe you avoid one more argument. You know what I mean? Like just because you're a little bit different now. And it's,
and it's all small stuff. Seriously. I mean, reading too. My Uncle Leon, he is our satellite distributor out here too. He taught me something about reading. So the more you read, actually, you are increasing your listening skills, meaning to say that you become a better listener. meaning then to say that you become a better sales rep, you become a better dealer because you are listening to your customers. And of course, I love what you said, that like you don't know what you change, and it just changes with you. um
Yeah.
Dodging an argument, being a little bit more patient, just listening a little bit more, leadership skills. When you talked about, reading was like the number one thing, some people still probably make fun of me for, because I just like to read. There's not a lot of people that do like to read. I
I
even,
secret, I hate it.
I
But,
hated it
but I
too.
make myself do it. I make myself do it. And I like it. I like it once I'm into it.
Yes. Yeah.
But thinking about going and getting my book and sitting down, I'm like, there's so much more like fun things I could be doing right now instead of sitting. But
Yeah.
but I do it. And of course, with today's technology, like, man, you don't have to read. When I say reading, it could be audible, it could be, I just mean, you know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And it's funny because all the guys that like are in my business, they're like, I don't like reading. Is it like a guy thing or something?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, you guys, even on my team, I'm like, here's a book, because I'm like outnumbered in my team. Like I probably have like one or two female reps, and they're
Wow.
all guys. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm over here coaching basically like a basketball team, like a
That
men's
is
basketball team.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of funny to me because, I have to do certain things where I have to learn how to, because females are way different, when it
Yeah.
comes to, just running a business. And guys, I mean, I'm very blessed to have like tons of manpower here at the office. Like I get help a lot, but leadership skills, people are coached differently, people want to be taught differently, and so that's something that I had to learn, reading tons of John Maxwell books. And trust me, you guys, like if you don't like to read, but if you want to get good at a skill, start with it's literally just like the gym, right, Mark?
Yeah, you gotta go. You gotta do it. And
Yeah,
it boggles my mind, like when people like, and I mean anybody, like, but especially in our business, our reps,
yeah,
when they complain about the price of a book that we tell them to go read.
right.
I want to be like, excuse me, are you complaining about $20 Canadian, by the way? That's like nothing to you guys. Like that's,
Yeah,
yeah, over in the States, you guys are like, I think I lost that in my couch. But there, people will actually complain about spending $25 on personal development. And I'm like, guys, that's your Disney Plus,
yeah,
whatever. Like, or that's what you spent at Starbucks today. And not hating on Starbucks. I don't want them coming after me.
yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, put it into, like, complaining about $25 on personal development is nuts when you have the newest iPhone every year.
Yeah,
Right. And most iPhones now are the same price as a mortgage.
that's crazy.
Yeah. So you're actually paying, like, if you buy a new one every year, you're actually paying 13 months of mortgages for your house just because it comes with a phone.
That's
And
wild.
you're like, oh, that's expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
definitely.
won't spend $25 on. And I was trying to do the math. I don't know your guys' terms, but this one always makes me laugh too. Because, and maybe I don't know what it's like where you are, but we hear a lot about, well, it costs gas to go to work, right?
Yeah,
Okay, it costs gas. And I did the breakdown and it was crazy. We use liters here. I know you guys use gallons, right?
gallons.
Okay, and I don't know, but I think it's roughly like 4 gallons or 4 liters in a gallon.
Yeah.
What's the price of gas there?
$5.
$5 a gallon?
Yep.
What's a large jump? Like a decently large, if it goes up, like what's a pretty large jump when the price goes up?
It depends. Like, so pre-COVID, you want to know pre-COVID?
Yeah, anytime.
Anytime, like people free like $1. Like a
A
dollar.
dollar?
Yeah, $1.
Okay. And so like how many gallons? So what do you guys have? You have like 25-gallon tanks or something then?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. How many tanks do you think most people go through in a month? Tanks of gas?
I don't know. I would have to break that down.
Okay. So I figured it out where we were. Most people, it's about two tanks of gas a month.
Okay.
Okay. So they're like, okay. And that's like for 9 to 5s because it's to work and back, to kids hockey and back, whatever. Right. So it's like 2 tanks of gas a month. So you're saying it'd be about an extra $50 a month if gas went up $1 then, because you got a 25-gallon tank. So, each tank costs you 25 more bucks. So it's $50.
Yep.
So that's $600 a year. So it went up $600 for a year, and people will talk about it and complain about it for a year. Like to anybody that'll listen, it's their small talk. It's their like weekend, it's their Thanksgiving dinner talk. And you're like, guys, do you know that you spent an enormous amount of energy and time complaining about what ended up costing you $600 a year? That, by the way, if you didn't have to spend it, you would have spent it on something else.
Right.
Like realistically, because your bank account's the same this year as it was last year. So it's more about developing good habits and not finding the excuse, the blame game of like, well, gas went up. Like, okay, but so what happened last year when gas wasn't up then? Where's the money from that year? Do you have that 600 somewhere?
Right.
Well, no. Okay. It's kind of like, when everyone's like, oh, if you quit smoking, you could buy a Corvette. And everyone's like, all the people I know that don't smoke don't have a Corvette.
I know.
And you're like, true. So we just find a different spending habit, right?
Yeah.
So it's just about bringing ourselves in. Spending less than you make is like, it's like working out. Just eat less calories than you spend and you'll lose weight. That's pretty, it's just math. Calories in versus calories out. Your bank account's the same.
Yeah. And you said something early on, like in this podcast, you said that everybody knows the game plan. Like the game plan is out there. You can be rich. You just have to do it. And to go back to what you said about gas, there was a quote that I read. It was like, your income should be based on your philosophy, not the economy. Meaning to say that it's up to you.
Yeah.
You cannot blame your, deduction on your income just because of the gas price. What am I going to do? Walk to my demos?
Yeah. You nailed it. It's so funny. Like how the economy is should have it honestly, it shouldn't be the make or break for how my life goes. That's crazy. That's giving up so much power. That's just saying, oh, it's up to the world how I do.
Yeah. But that also is like, just seeing all these wealthy people like Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, they've done it. So the fact that they are out there and being wealthy and rich, what is literally the difference? And I had interviewed like this doctor out here in California, and she had a beautiful house. And you know me, I'm always asking, so what's your mindset? Like, how did you make this happen? And I was young. She said, do you see yourself? Do you see me? She said, I have one brain. I have one heart. I have 2 eyes. I have the same exact organs as you. It's just, I believed that I could do it. And so I made it happen. And I was like, man, like that stuck with me. I'm like, yo, Mark, you and I got the same number of organs, like 2 eyes, 1 heart. Like,
and you know what? There's people out there with less than us.
Yeah.
Doing bigger.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, like, it's just talking about hope. Like you just got to have hope with it.
Yeah.
And like the biggest example that I can think of in like, man, I say recent history, but now it's like almost 100 years ago. But did you ever read up on the 4-minute mile? Like how big of a deal that was to humans?
Yes.
Yeah. So they had been trying to do it since like the late 1800s was when people first started thinking, hey, maybe. And nobody could do it. It was just assumed that we could never run a 4-minute mile. So nobody did it. I think it happened I think it was 1953 or something like that. It was the first time somebody ran a 4-minute mile. The next year, 3 people did it in the same race.
Wow.
So honestly, it is just about belief, because as soon as humans saw that the blueprint, like it can happen, they all did it.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how much, like, it's all up here. If as soon as you saw it and you're like, oh, I know it's possible, you can push yourself to do it. But there's a barrier there if you don't think it's possible, which is why who you hang around matters so much, because like your brain will set up barriers based on what you think is possible. But go hang out with Todd and Tammy Giggleman, and I promise you, you're like, whoa, life can be awesome. And
Yeah.
you'll just go and do it.
Yep.
And, you know, I went to Dawood's office. I was so fortunate that they invited me a couple years ago. And I mean, they were the best hosts, probably bar none, I've ever been to. And it was crazy. I went into their room and they're just sitting there going, did you know that there's 125 sales a month in this office right now? And I was like, what do you mean? Just their guys that were in that meeting were 125 sales a month. And they were at this meeting. And I went, well, how many appointments are they running? And they went, oh, they do like 40 to 55 each or something. And I went, huh? I've been pitching like do 12 to 16 a month. And they're like, what? And they're like, Mark, when a new person comes into our office, what do you think they see as the norm? What do you think they see as the job? And so now when someone comes into their office, they come in and believe, oh, I run 40 demos a month and I make 10K a month. Like that's what they think is possible. So they do it. Whereas if you run an organization where like, you know, everybody's getting bells and whistles because they ran a demo this week. Yeah. Well, what's the new recruit think is the ceiling, right? The new person comes in, where's their belief system at? Their belief system is, well, if I work really hard, I might make $400, right? Because so you kind of you really gotta set the room up so that the new people, that they can dream big. If you don't let them see what's possible, they don't know on their own. So we have to let them see, like, and that's why these meetings are so important. Like, so important. My gosh, getting people to these meetings, letting them see like what's actually attainable. Yeah. The 4-minute mile. Let them come watch someone, see that someone ran the 4-minute mile. And now let's get 3 people doing it in the same race. And it's that fast.
And you know what it is, though? It's 2 things. It's setting the standard and having that standard become your culture. And I think that's so important. And to talk, you know, to go back to what you were saying, to talk about, you know, that organization, I like hung out with them, you know, when we were in Canada. And the number one thing that I realized was that they all had that fun culture where, you know, dreaming big was fun for them. And some of them messaged me. They were like, oh, like I'm so focused this month. And I'm like, what do you focus on? Becoming worldwide sales champ. I'm like, dang, like I'm so proud of these champions. And, you know, that's also goes with why you wanted to be in the rainbow business. It's team. Like you are a team and you're setting that championship mindset just to like anybody and everybody that you meet. And you know, I just love that about this business too. It is what you make of it, right? Like you can when people say MLM, I'm like, okay, hold on. Like you, sir, can be a business owner as well.
It's the funniest thing where as soon as someone doesn't understand something, or as soon as it's sales, it's like illegal. And you're like, guys, what? I don't know what world you live in. Why have you been designed to think that, like, if I'm the one that has what someone wants, it's illegal? Like, I'm just supposed to only be a consumer. I read a really, or was it a podcast? They all blend together. But the guy, he gave a really kind of crazy outlook on money. And he said, pretend that every time someone bought something from you, or you did a favor for someone, like you did a service, you cut their hair, or you changed the tiles on their roof, whatever, right? Pretend they gave you a thank you note or an IOU instead. And then anytime that you got something done for you, you gave them one of your thank you notes and you gave away an IOU. And he goes, if you think of it that way, because that's really what money is, you know, it's a thank you. They're trading what, you know, and it's an IOU essentially. Yeah. He said, so essentially, and not being rude, he just said being broke is selfish. And he goes, because who has the most IOUs? Who has the most thank you notes? Jeff Bezos. Elon Musk. He goes, they're the least selfish people. How did they get all of that? That many people gave them something. That many people use their service. So those people have helped more people than anybody else ever. And they have the thank you notes to show for it. And he goes, because if you backed off and you got rid of money and literally just worked with thank you notes, he goes, we would all love them. We would all be like, whoa, look at how much stuff they've done for our community. Look at their stack of thank you notes. Whereas they're not spending them. They're not taking anything from us. And it's like, holy. So honestly, going out there and in any sort of sales business, if you make good money, it's not because it's illegal or a scam or any of the above. It's that more people are getting things from you and you're helping more people than what I was as an accountant. As an accountant, I wasn't helping anybody. Like I did 6 company files a year or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? That they could have, I was just $21 an hour. Like I wasn't helping anybody. So of course my bank account reflected that. I had no IOUs. I had no thank you notes. And so it was like, okay, that's kind of a cool way to look at it. Like, the ones that have the most money, it's honestly because they've done the most for people.
It's their service.
Yeah. Like why is Walmart and Starbucks billion-dollar companies? Well, because 1 billion of us buy a coffee every day.
All over the world.
Yeah. They're supplying the whole world's coffee. And you're like, oh, and I hate that guy? That's weird. Like, like the guy has his stack of thank you notes. Let him have them.
Yeah. No, that's insane. But I love that. I feel like that's forever going to be ingrained in my head now. Like seeing money as like a thank you note, because that is my product or service. Like for me, whenever I make a sale, this is like my culture in my office. I'm like, don't chase your commission. I want you to be here because you actually want to help the person relieve their asthma allergies, breathe a healthier lifestyle inside of their home. And then the commission will come. And that's my standard at the office because, I just said this on our regional call, was it yesterday? I was like, the more you become a better person, the more of a better dealer you become. Oh, so 1000%.
You see it in all of them. Whoever's the best person with their customer is the best dealer.
Yes.
They have the most leads coming in. They have the happiest customers. And their customers are getting all the attachments. Like they're getting some thank you notes, right?
Yeah.
And, even just it's a picture just going for a haircut. Like I really am saying thank you for the haircut, right? Like that's why I'm paying them. Like I'm like, hey, I needed a haircut. You gave me a haircut. Here, I'm happy that you get to make money. Thank you. So it's no different. It's just that when people don't understand it, they revert back to whatever they heard their grandpa say when they were 5, because they have a core memory of hearing that a salesperson is right. It's just like ingrained in us. They don't actually have any logic behind it.
Yeah.
It's like just the default.
Yeah.
And I get it, but today's a crazy world. Like you're going to miss out on a lot if you're skeptical about everything. Imagine people were skeptical, and they were, but imagine the airplane or the TV or the computer or the internet. It's like, do you really want to be that guy holding a sign on your lawn still being like, the internet's a scam and
right?
Airplanes will never fly? Like you got to get out of whatever your default is sometime and be like, okay, it seems like it's working and it seems like a lot of happy people must be happy with us, or how are we getting the thank you notes?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. If people didn't like the product, we would go get a different job.
Exactly. And it's, people are still skeptical and, people probably make fun of us, but tell me why there are people like Todd and Tammy, Doug Stewart, Peggy Valentine, Tiffany and Brad, who have already made things happen. And they've made it. I mean, people like you, you're in the business.
I'm a small fish. Small. Todd, I got big. No. There's giants.
I've seen you on that poster, bro.
that was that's a running. I love it because that poster for the 2020 or for the Italy trip came out.
Yeah.
And then COVID happened. So they had to send out the same poster for all the next trips. So I have like 3 years of being on that poster, and I was just like eating it up. I was like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. But those giants in the business, and they're still doing it.
Still.
Like, yeah, they're doing it because they love seeing the growth in their staff. They love it. And where do our staff come from? Our customers.
Yeah.
So they know that they have to treat their customers really, really well, show them a better side of life, help them get rid of some bills. And they love it. They're in it for that reason. They don't need the money.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of eye-opening.
That's their why. I said that's their why.
It really is. And you see it in them. You see it in them when they talk.
And I mean, even my parents, like for 23 years, I was the most skeptical one out of oh my God. And my whole family does this. So, I was just like, I don't want to do what they're doing.
Yeah. So you were going to go be an academic. You were going to go be a doctor.
I was going to be a doctor.
Yeah. See?
So it was the total opposite for me.
Yeah.
But you grow and you mature in the business and you see like, wow, you make a lot of money, but it's all up to you. It's your mindset. But Mark, thank you so much for being on my podcast, man. That was awesome. It was way too short, but maybe we can have it too. But before I end, every episode, I just want to ask you, what is your best advice that you want to give to your viewers on wealth, financial freedom, or just, any topic that we just spoke about? Something that can really resonate when, after listening to this podcast, they can bring out, they can bring on to their business or their day-to-day life.
Man, honestly, it's going to cut a lot of people deep. I'm not, I don't want to attack anybody, but to be as real as I can be, make your reason why not your reason why. And what I mean is whatever excuse you keep giving yourself, turn that into why you have to do it. So an example would be, oh, I would do that, but I have kids. Mm-hmm. I have to do that because I have kids. Right? So whatever excuse you're giving yourself, whatever your why not is, turn it into your why and watch what happens. And it's absolutely bonkers. Turn it into your why. You'll hit the roof. And then other than that, just stop caring about what anybody else thinks.
I love that. And you know what? I'm going to post that, put it on a sticky note, and I'm going to put do not give up and put it on my mirror. I mean, I actually have like tons of notes on my mirror, but I'm going to add that one too. Mm-hmm. But you guys, thank you guys so much for listening. If you love this podcast, make sure you like, you comment, and you share. It's actually going to be on my live right now and on my Facebook. So I'm going to share it with you guys. But thank you so much for all the support. And Mark, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you, your time. I know you're busy, businessman, dad, husband, and just thank you so much. We have Mark McKelvey on. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. And I will see you guys on my next podcast. Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you.
Friends.